Hey, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're actually going to cover the channel rack in FL Studio. In the first video, we talked about the dashboard, which is this area up here, and also the browser, which is this area right down here. So if you missed that video, go back and watch that video. But this is the next video where we're going to be discussing the channel rack. The channel rack in FL Studio is actually very easy and simple once you understand how it works. The channel rack works alongside with the patterns. You create different patterns in the channel rack. So you can have a channel rack with your instruments on it, your different synths, your different pianos or whatnot that you have, and you can create different patterns inside the channel rack, and you can also create everything in one pattern inside the channel rack. So we're going to go over that today in this video, and hopefully this can help you out. First thing first with the channel rack is this little arrow right here. This is your options, channel rack options, and you have quite a few different options that go along with the channel rack here. Next is the loop mode, and I don't tend to use loop mode, but loop mode is helpful when you want it to continue to play while you're trying to build out the pattern that you want in it. You have to be in pattern mode for the most part to hear what's on the channel rack, because if you're in song mode and you don't have a pattern in the playlist, then you won't hear anything. If you're in song mode, you have to take the pattern first that you built in the channel rack and put it into the playlist in order to hear what's going on in the channel rack. In that same token, you could have 5 or 6 patterns and just have one pattern in the playlist. And when you're in song mode, then you only hear that one pattern. When you're in pattern mode, you only hear the pattern that is highlighted or in this little area here. So if we're in pattern 2, the only pattern that we'll hear while we're playing the pattern or in pattern mode is the second pattern. And I'll explain more detail on that as well. The channel rack shows you when you pull this down. Normally when you have audio, you'll have an audio tab under here. When you have unsorted, which is all of the MIDI like instruments, VSTIs, sounds and things like that, it shows unsorted. And then you have automations whenever you have automation clips. Next is this little thing right here. This is where you can actually resize this so you can see like full or the full name, or if you want it to be smaller and you see like abbreviated names, you can just resize that. It's completely up to you. It's a preference. This right here is a channel rack pause or pattern pause, so you could be playing. If you got the pattern playing and you click this, it actually pauses right there in the middle, and you can just continue from there or pause again. So it pauses right there instead of you having to hit control and pause where you are. If you just hit the space bar, it's going to go all the way back to the beginning. Right here is the swing knob. The more you turn this up, the more offbeat something is, or it really puts things in the pocket. If you don't want things to be directly on the beat, you want it to kind of sort of swing a little bit, then you turn this knob up and everything in that pattern is going to swing. This is going to be your pattern length. It could be 2, 4. As you can see, once I go up, it highlights more of them. So that'll be your pattern length. Most of the time when you're in FL Studio, it's going to be about this long. When you first turn it in, that's about 4 bars. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It'll be 4 bars, and these are your steps. Next, you have the graph editor. Now, this is the volume. So whenever you lay something down, you'll have the note pitch, the velocity of it, the release velocity, the fine pitch. You got panning, you got the X modulation, the Y modulation, as well as the shift. And that more in detail as well once we get to building beats and whatnot. This is the step sequencer, and it can change over to piano roll because your patterns also work with your piano roll. So if we were to create a step sequence here and we wanted to see it in the piano roll, we could easily just hit here and we'll see it in the piano roll, and you double tap that, or you tap that one time and it automatically opens up the piano roll, and we'll go over the piano roll in another video. But these two basically are the exact same thing. One is just a step sequencer, and the piano roll gives you a little bit more freedom to move things around and offbeat and onbeat if you like. And of course, that's the exit. Here is the solo button. This basically turns it on or off. So you can turn it off, you can turn it on. If you right click on it, it gives you more options. So if there are more sounds that you have loaded into your channel rack, you could just hit this and it'll solo just that one. This little knob is going to be your panning. So the more this way you go, your sound's going to be to the left. And the more this way you go, your sound's going to be to the right. You also have this one right here is your volume. Now, normally your volume is default to 78 or 80%. And I'll show you a little trick, or I'll show you what else controls this volume knob, but that is your volume knob. This right here tells you what channel or what track on the mixer channel you are in. Right now, since there's nothing there, I'm not in the mixer at all, but if I scroll up, this sends it directly to mixer track 1. But you can also send it by highlighting this, hitting Control and L, and it automatically sends it to the mixer, and it also names it. So if I bring my mixer over here, you'll see that it's on the mixer track 1 and it's named sampler. Next are your steps. So what we were talking about, these steps are basically how you count everything, right? So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you do understand music, then you understand why we're skipping these 3 and these 3, because in music you count music 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and that is one full measure. If you click here where it says sampler, you can either drop a sample into this part here and that sample is going to play. So for instance, I'll go and grab a kick, one of my kicks that I made here in my Juicy Kick. I'll just pick it up and drop it into the sample, and now it's named Juicy Kick. And what I was saying earlier about the volume knob, this volume knob controls that volume knob. So you see, as I move this volume knob, that volume knob also moves, and as I move this volume knob, the one on the sampler also moves. Same thing with the panning. If I move this, the panning knob on the channel rack moves. And if I move this, the panning knob in the sampler also moves. Another way that you can load onto your sampler or onto your channel rack is to just simply take a sound. Let's see, we got a kick on there. Let's try something else. That's the piano one shot. We'll drag it and we'll just drop it. You see that line that highlights? That's below the kick, and it drops it right onto the channel rack. You can also, at the same token, go here, hit add, and then if you want to add like an instrument or a VST or a plugin or of any sort, then you just hit that plus button and you click here, open up Flex, and it automatically opens up Flex here. A lot of times you can just take it and drag it right into this little area here on the channel rack, and it automatically loads that plugin onto the channel rack. And now you can add as many instruments onto the channel rack. I've never hit a limit on the channel rack. I don't know if there's a limit on the channel rack, but hey, there may be. But you can load as many instruments on the channel rack as you need. And the great thing about this is that each one of these instruments, I can highlight all of these, or let's see, because that's already sent to one. I'll highlight these two, hit Control L, and it sends those to the mixer as well. And it takes it that same color and it sends it to the mixer. Now that we're back to just the sampler, I'll go over the rest of it here. So this is just how you scroll through your channel rack. The more you have there on it, the longer it becomes. And you can also resize the channel rack. So I'm going to move it over here. You go to the edge of it just like this, and you can resize it to make it bigger or smaller. You can also scroll like this. You got your little scroll arrows, or you can press in the middle here. Press the scroll wheel on your mouse while you're hovering over it and go up or down or left to right, and it's going to scroll a little bit faster for you. Let's talk about building patterns in our channel rack. So right now we are in pattern 1. I'll go back down here to my kits here, and let's go to Juicebox, and we'll just grab a kick again. So that's a nice kick. We'll just grab it in there and we'll just lay it down. So in our step sequencer, this is going to be how we build our drums. Right? And then you can also add like snares. I got more drums here. We'll go here. I'll also add snares. So I'm going to drop this snare, drag it, drop it right in there. And now you got... Or you can have it where it's... Let's see, we can also grab some cymbals, throw this open hat in there. I'll double click on it so I can open it up in the sampler here. And normally in FL Studio, when you first open it up, you load it up for the first time, your channel rack is attached. Right now, mine is detached. And what that means is I can open up anything I want to, but nothing's going to open up over this channel rack. And personally, I tend to keep the channel rack on a separate screen. But since it's on this screen and I don't want anything to open up above it or to close it when I do open something else, I have it detached. But you can always go here and go all the way down and uncheck detached. And now anytime I click on something else, you see how it goes above the channel rack, but I can bring the channel rack back. Personally, I like it to be detached. I'm gonna right click on the sound and I'll go to fill each 4 steps, and now it's gonna play. We can change the length of that sound of the hi-hat by opening up the piano roll. So we'll click there and then we'll click here, and what I want to do now is I'll highlight all of these, and then I'll just kind of scroll in some and I'll move it open just a little bit. And now those hi-hats are going to sound shorter. Since they're all highlighted, I can hit shift, move them over here to this little portion, just a couple of beats over. I'll hold down Alt and I'll scroll down a little bit to turn the volume down. And now I got, and I can even go as far as to close one of them in all the way, and we get this. Once you go back, click on that again. Now your piano roll, since you changed how some of these notes look inside the piano roll, the channel rack isn't going to go back to that step sequencer. When you do go back to the step sequencer, it's going to look like the piano roll. Now, if I were to scroll up and go into a different pattern, everything goes away because all of that is in the first pattern. Once I hit play, nothing plays because it's nothing there. I'm going to drag a piano in here, drop it there below, and you can build notes here, but this is just going to be a sequel. If you were to try and build chords on the step sequencer for any melodic instrument, it's always going to be on C, and it's going to play that whole C out the entire time. So it's really not wise to build a pattern with melodic instruments in the channel rack. It's best to just go into the piano roll. So what I did to make that go away or to delete that was, if you want to place one there, you left click on it. If you want to take one away, you right click on it. And you can press and hold and scroll, and it's just going to highlight them all. And the same thing is if you right click on it, it's going to delete them all. Now, normally to build something in the channel rack melodically, you just go over here, you click on this button, it's going to change it to piano roll. You click on it, and now in the piano roll, you can lay down some chords here. Now, with those chords being there, if I want this direct wave to go down, I'll just click it here, and it opens up, and it also closes when you click there. Now, with these being here and they're on a pattern by themselves, you won't hear the drums. So if I scroll down on pattern 1, we have our drums. And if I scroll up, we have the piano. Now, some people like to build everything in the same pattern. Some people like to separate the patterns. Personally, it's whatever's flowing for me. I'll normally build everything in the same pattern. But what we can do is with those patterns, let's see, we close that down, and both of the patterns are here, pattern 1 and pattern 2. We can take both of these, drag them out into our playlist, and if we switch to song mode, now we can hear both patterns at the same time. Another great thing about the channel rack is the organization in it. So in the channel rack, if you press and hold and you scroll all the way down, or you click all the way, drag all the way down, and you go right over here and you click color selected, you got gradient or random. I'm going to hit gradient here, and then you can color them. So we can go, let's say this is the first color, we hit last, and then we say this is the last color, and we hit accept. Now it automatically colors those, and since they're all still highlighted, if we hit Control L, it's going to send it directly to our mixer. And as you can see, it colors and it names the mixer at the same time. If we go back to our step sequencer, and we are here in pattern 1, there are a few options you have when it comes to building out more patterns. So let's say with the hi-hat, we want to do an advanced fill We click advanced fill, and a lot of people don't talk about this in FL Studio, and I think it's because a lot of people don't know about it. But if you're having a hard time coming up with a pattern for your hi-hats, you can easily hit advanced fill, and then over here you click random, and now this pattern is what's playing on your hi-hats here. So you could do fill every, or you could change it up here, manual, and you can kind of like click on which ones you want filled up here. And it helps you just kind of come up with patterns. And if you move this around, of course, it's changing which one's starting and which one's not. Now if I move it here, as you can see, this one lights up, that one lights up. We're on the snare. So this one lights up, that one lights up. And it's just that pattern if you go to the right. So lit up, not lit up, not lit up, not lit up, not lit up, lit up. As you see, that pattern goes on. You can also go from manual to this, and now it's going to just kind of randomly fill them up, or you could change it how you want it to go. And, you know, not very many people use this, but this does help. Like I said, when you want to come up with new patterns and whatnot, so you can use this. You can solo it, you can play it, pause it from there. You can do the 12 count, or you can go down and do like 8 count. You can even go as far as like 16 counts, because there are 16. The length of the sequence is 16, and they're all lit up. And now if you go to manual, and you can unhighlight some of these by clicking on them, and you can reset them all and so forth. So there's a few different things that you could do inside this, and you could change up which instrument you're controlling by going here. It's the piano, you got the hi-hat. So that's a way to help you come up with more patterns. Also, what I did forget to mention was if you were to drag a actual loop into the piano roll, or I'm sorry, into the channel rack, you can get different sounds. So let's go here. We'll go to this pack, open it up. I'll just find a loop, melody loops, and I'm gonna actually go up a pattern. I'm gonna drag this loop, and I'm just gonna drop it into this right here, and it changes over to waves, right? And as you can see, this changed over to audio. So that's an audio wave, this is audio, and now we have the audio, and you can still build a sequence using audio waves. However, it's not going to sound the same because it's not cutting itself off. But let's just say I wanted to use this, and what I would have to do in order to make this sound through the step sequencer is I would have to go here, hit this, and then I hit cut itself, so now they don't overlap when they play. You can build a pattern that way if you like, but it is a little bit more tedious, should I say, or sometimes it's just annoying. But a lot of times, everything that's in your side here in this little plugin or pattern picker is also going to be here in the channel rack. You got the all, it's going to show everything. So from the unsorted, like the instruments and sound, all the way to the audio, and also the automation. So what I mean by automations is I'll go here, and let's just create an automation clip. Let's put this in the playlist here, and I'll double click it, and I will go to maybe volume, and I'll create an automation clip through the volume, and we'll get into automation clips as we go through more of the series and build actual instruments. But now if I go to my channel rack, there's my automation clip. So it's showing me everything from the unsorted to the waves to the automation clips. Everything is there. That is pretty much all for the channel rack here. I hope you found this helpful. In the next video, I will go over the playlist in more in depth for you. So make sure you come back. Also like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.